Hello, how are you guys? Hopefully, you're having a good day and everything's going well. We had snow in Ohio, so we're just kind of adjusting to this whole new world. I feel like that's going right into winter, and here we are. So, I'm so excited to share today on how to reclaim your energy, how to be a more positive version of yourself when there's so many challenging times happening right now and when there's so much going on in the world. And so, what I want to talk about and what I want you to share, and what I would love for you to let me know is if you're catching this live or if you're catching a replay, because I'd love to hear you answer it as you go along. So, you may want to grab a piece of paper, or you just might want to listen along and then just kind of categorize or save a couple things in your phone that you can start to take action on today. And so, the first thing I want you to know is like, when it comes to this world, this total craziness, is like how you're able to take a hold of the energy that you have and how you're able to put out the energy that you want into the world is going to be one of your superpowers. So, how do you really take advantage of that and how do you use it? To do more good, to feel better in your body, to help your family, to help your neighbors, to really enjoy yourself, even going in through this craziness into the holidays. And, as you think about 2020, and it has been such a marathon, and what we thought at the beginning was going to be more of like a sprint is turned on to a full blown marathon, and there really isn't a huge end in sight that we can see, and there's of course so many unknowns still, and things are constantly changing. And so how do you ground in to what you want to feel and what you want to put out there, because this isn't something that you can just push through. And so as we get into this training, I'm going to give you 5 specific things that you can focus on and that you can implement into your life. And they shouldn't add too much time and they shouldn't take a lot of money, but they're going to be really valuable steps in helping you to then like harness that energy that you want and take it with you. And so if you're like me, if you're like a lot of my clients, if you're like most people in the world, you're probably feeling like really stuck and you're feeling like you're just craving this plan. You're feeling like things aren't flowing easily. And as soon as you move forward in one direction, you're taking steps backward in another. And every time that you kind of get your ball rolling, something just comes in and crashes it down or changes the plan or makes it a lot harder to do that. And so that is totally normal, I feel like, with all that we have going on. And so what we want to do is really take control of what we can and turn it into the best possible situation for ourselves. And so as we move through here, like I really want you to focus on how you want to feel. You probably want to feel more grounded. And you probably want to feel more energy, and you probably want to feel more positive, which is why you're watching this training, because that's what this is about, right? So how do you access that version of yourself that's like, all right, everything is burning, but I'm calm and I'm going to get through this. And this is all, going to be okay. And how do you access that version that feels like even when there's all these things going wrong, you're able to take control of the things that you can? And how do you access the version of yourself that's able to implement strategies and habits and things that feel good, but just haven't fit into your life or you haven't made the space for them? And like, how do you access more joy? And how do you access more inner peace? And how do you access more confidence in these things that you ultimately want, but you've kind of put on pause because of the world situations and because of all the things that are happening? And that is so real. And that's totally normal to be in that place. And so I want you to just take a deep breath, and I want you to just kind of picture yourself as that better version of yourself. So whatever that looks like for you, what is it? What are you wearing? What do you look like? What are you showing up as? How are you going to work? How are you interacting with your kids and your family? How are you spending your days? What are you doing with your time? What does this all look like as this better version of yourself? So you're yourself with your same job, your same family, and you're just feeling differently. You're feeling that energy, that positive energy that you want. And what does that look like for you? So if you take a second and you really get clear on that, and you really get clear on like, what is that next level version of you that already exists? If you can think it already exists. Then it's going to help to understand like how to implement these things, because you know where you want to go and you're understanding like, what that looks like. And so first, what we really need to understand is that you are so powerful as your own self. You are so powerful. You have so much power over how you show up and how you feel. And when you put all of these other pieces in place, then you can access that power so much more easily. But what happens is we give our power away. We give our power away to everything outside of us. And so we don't feel powerful. And then we don't act powerful because we actually gave our power away. So just kind of remembering that you are so powerful, who you are and how you are already. You just need to kind of bring back that power from these places that have taken it or that you've given it to, and then you'll be able to access it. And also what we need to understand before we move forward in these tips is really, what is energy? And so when you think about energy, you can think of a million things, right? You can think of actual energy that like happens in the world. But if you think of energy as everything being made up of energy, everything is vibrating at a different level, and that you can feel energy, then you can kind of understand what I'm talking about, how to reclaim this energy so that the vibes and the energy that you're putting into the world are of what you want. And so just close your eyes for a second and just think about yourself sitting in a room, and you're in a meeting. You're just like, maybe it's a school meeting, maybe it's a work meeting, but basically you're at this big long table and you're ready, waiting for the meeting to start. Everyone's kind of like sitting around the table, and in walks this woman, and she throws her folder on the table, and she whips her chair out, and she kind of like huffs under her breath. She doesn't really say anything, but she's not looking or making any eye contact with anyone. And so she sits down and she's getting ready to start the meeting. And what you're feeling in that situation is energy. It's her energy. It's her vibration that she's putting out. So it's like, what it is the energy is what you can't necessarily pinpoint, but you can completely feel. So you can maybe feel her frustration. You can maybe feel her disappointment. You can maybe feel her anger. So you're feeling these things, but they're not actually, there's no words being spoken. Same thing with your kids. Maybe your kids come home from school, throw their backpack on the floor, sit down, put their head in their hands. Like, they haven't said anything, but the energy that they're putting off is giving you a feeling immediately. And so maybe all of a sudden you start to react differently. Just like at that meeting, you probably immediately put your guard up because you realize, like, uh-oh, what's about to happen here? I need to start to protect myself. So again, close your eyes and picture the same meeting, the same situation. You're sitting around a table getting ready for this to start. And in walks this woman. She's standing really tall. She's smiling, looking around the room. She, makes eye contact with each person, sets her folder down, pulls out her chair, kind of looks around, sits down and gets ready to start. Big deep breath, same thing. No words have happened, and you can feel the energy that she's bringing into the space, and you can feel the energy that she's bringing even if nothing has been said. And that's exactly what energy is. Same thing with kids. If you picture your kid walking in from school, they're kind of a little pep to their step. They hang their book bag up where it's supposed to go. They come pop down at the counter, ready to, say something, but they haven't said a word, and you can feel their energy right there. And so that is what is happening with us all the time. We're constantly putting out energy into the world, and we're constantly, without speaking, putting that vibe out that we have that's either calming or uplifting or exciting or energizing for someone else, or it's maybe like a little bit scary, a little guarded, a little frustrated. There's that feeling of like, ooh, she might snap at any time. Even though she hasn't said anything, I can tell that she might snap at any time. So that is the vibe that we're talking about. And when you're talking about reclaiming your energy, you're talking about bringing that power back so that you're able to show up again, like without even speaking, and people can feel that, and you're able to give that vibe that you want. And so as we get through these steps, just really knowing and understanding that like your vibration, your energy like leads before you do. And so before you can say a word, the way that you carry yourself, the way that you show up is out there. And so I think that this is super helpful to recognize and understand and just have a good, clear picture of. And so when you're talking about reclaiming it, you're realizing that is such a superpower, because if you can harness your energy and you can show up the way you want and give the vibe that you want, that vibe of whatever it is, like I said, whether it's peace, whether it's, success, that vibe of like confidence, whether it's the vibe, and of course your vibes are going to change for all different situations, whether it's just that compassion and love, whatever it is that you want, you have that power to control. and you have that power. So how do you reclaim it when you're giving it away, when everything is taking it and you want to hold on to it? You know you do, except, you got this call from school that this thing happened and now all of a sudden your head is spinning, or the plans changed and now all of a sudden, everything that you had thought was going to work is not going to work anymore. I mean, we're constantly dealing with these situations on a regular basis right now because of the condition of the world. And so it's just a matter of starting to pull back that energy from all these things and make that happen. So let's dive in. So the first that we talked about is really realizing how powerful you are. But then I really want you to take it that next step further. And I want you to think about noticing. And so I would say the first step is like the biggest picture is like really realizing that you're so powerful. And then the second step is really noticing. And when I say noticing, I just mean that. I mean, looking around at your life, looking around at what's happening on a day-to-day basis, looking around at how you're starting each day. Are you waking up and you're already late and you're in a fury and you're just rolling into doing things for other people, or are you starting your day on your terms? I want you to notice what you're doing each day. I want you to notice how you're filling yourself up. How are you filling yourself up from like a media perspective? What are you filling your time with? Like, are you turning on the TV right away? Are you scrolling on your phone right away? And like I said, this step is in noticing. So this is without judgment. This is like, oh, I know I shouldn't do that, but I'm doing it. That's so much judgment. I'm just talking about like leaning back, taking a second to notice. And if you can do this in multiple areas of your life. So if you can notice how you're eating, what are you filling yourself up with? Are you actually like sitting down, or are you you get that phone call and you're just like scarfing something because you need to, fix that. You need to you don't know what to do. And that's kind of your stress mechanism. And so you're just shoveling things in. Notice if that's happening without judgment. Really notice if that's happening. Notice like what you're filling yourself up with from a nutrition standpoint on a day-to-day basis. Are you still in that survival state that we've been living in for a long time that includes maybe a lot of fast food or a lot of junk? Because again, in survival state, what we thought was going to be a short amount of time is now turning into a long period of time. So how are you filling yourself up from a nutrition perspective? Are you drinking water? Are you, eating your vegetables and your lean proteins and your healthy fats and things that you know feel better? Or are you constantly needing the sugar fix, maybe late morning, maybe afternoon, definitely at bedtime, because A, you're in a habit pattern that's causing that. And then B, you're searching for something. So you're needing a burst of energy or a little bit of comfort or some sort of distraction. So first thing is noticing. Also notice your environment. With all the crazy and the changing and the virtual school at home and the, half the day there and everywhere, you're working at home, like our environment is so impacted and our environment has so much impact on how we feel. So notice your environment. Notice what your routine is at night. Did you used to have a routine and now you've kind of gotten away from it? Same thing with the morning. Are you starting, like I said, 2 feet back, or are you prepared in the morning and able to take a second to ground in, drink your coffee, and really start the day on your terms? So noticing all these different things. Notice your movement. Are you able to exercise? Or because this past week has been so rainy and now we have snow and then the kids are home and this and that, what has happened to your movement routine and how does that look for you right now? Again, you're just noticing, because when you notice without judgment, then you're able to actually notice oh, you know what? I kind of dropped the ball on that, but that's okay. Or maybe I was working out 7 days a week or 5 days a week, and now I'm only working out 2, but you know what? That feels okay right now. Then you don't need to tackle that. So noticing, again, your nutrition, all of these lifestyle habits that are so critical is hugely important in reclaiming your energy. So your nutrition, your sleep, how are you sleeping? Are you going to bed with a million thoughts in your mind, or are you getting those out before you go to bed on the notebook so that they're not swirling and waking you up at night? How you're moving, like I said, like we talked about, how your routines are serving you or not serving you. And then notice how your environment is. Are things just kind of a little astray, and are they adding chaos, or are they helping you to kind of ground in whew, I can take a deep breath. This is clear. I can light a candle and give myself some peace. So the second step is really noticing, because your energy is so determined by your day-to-day. What you do every single day is really a huge part of how you're going to reclaim your energy. And when you set yourself up for that success each day, then all of a sudden you've taken it all back. work. And so these lifestyle habits and these day-to-day habits are really, I mean, we could do a whole training on those for sure, but we're kind of diving into lots of different spaces right now today. But lifestyle habits and noticing your day-to-day is going to be hugely important. And if that needs a tune-up, then there is so much room for improvement and growth in that space. Then you could easily get back your energy by taking a hold and taking your power in that space. So the third thing, actually we have 6 if we count this way. The third thing I want you to think about in reclaiming your energy, in taking it all back, is how are you processing emotions? And this is something that I feel like I've done so much work on in the past couple years since starting Kesia 3.5, almost 4 years ago, since bringing women through all of these changes to take back their power and, create habits and really like harness that self-love to help make long-lasting, sustainable changes in their life. Processing emotions is something that I realized I didn't do well before. And it is like this amazing jewel that is just so important when it comes to energy. So emotions are energy in motion, and they have a specific charge. So when you look at a chart, and I'm happy to share this with you, when you look at a chart, there are actual vibrations that are attached to different emotions. So if you're feeling guilt or shame, your energy vibration number, it's actually a frequency, is very low. It's vibrating very low. So you're putting out those like really low negative vibes, low energy feelings. Then as you move up, you even move up to sadness a little bit. You move up to like just kind of feeling content. You're more at that neutral ground. And then you move forward to feeling like more confident, you move forward to joy, you move forward to inner peace, you move forward to love. Then all of a sudden you're vibrating at like a high frequency, and that's where you want to be. So what happens with processing emotions is if you don't deal with your emotions and you kind of stuff them down there, you're like, you know what? I don't have time to feel this sadness. I don't have time to feel this anger, or I shouldn't feel sad or angry, which is typically what we do. Then I'm just going to not feel it and I'm just going to move on. What happens is that negative energy gets trapped inside your body, and it either keeps your whole energy amount vibrating at a lower frequency. So it's almost like you put a governor on it. So you can't get to that more joy because you have so much that you packed in and shoved down there. Or it comes out all of a sudden, someone spills milk in your kitchen and you go crazy because you didn't deal with that anger that you had about something else that was actually deserving of it. And so now here you are losing your mind over a glass of spilled milk in your kitchen. So if you're having trouble processing emotions, this is something that is hugely powerful in reclaiming your energy. When you're able to process emotions, and processing emotions does not have to be scary. It does not have to be this like deep dive into crazy therapy or anything like that. It can be as simple as like recognizing emotions, noticing what they are, and then allowing yourself to feel them. And there's so many great ways to do that and allow you to move through them. They're like a wave. So you feel it just like a toddler having a fit. It gets worse, and then better, and they're good. They're good. So what we don't do, we like stop the wave. We're like, oh, I'm starting to feel super frustrated. Don't want to feel that. So we just squish it in, and all of a sudden it's in there building up. And it can always present itself as disease. I shouldn't say always. It can present itself as disease, or it can just pop off at random times. Or like I said, what it can do is just like not allow you to feel those higher emotions because you have so much negative trap. So processing emotions is a huge piece of how to reclaim your energy. Because again, when you're able to feel your feelings, then you can feel them in a safe, appropriate way that's normal, which a lot of us are conditioned to not feel. We think like, oh, things aren't that bad for me. I shouldn't feel sad about that. And that's typically one of the biggest traps. When you are a successful woman, when you're happy most of the time, then you sometimes don't give yourself permission to feel things because you think like someone has it worse than me, so I shouldn't feel that. Or you think maybe it could have been worse, so I'm not going to allow myself to feel that disappointment. Or you think like, oh, I still have it, good enough, so I'm not going to feel that disappointment or that frustration or that sadness. And this is something that is so tricky. This is called compounding emotions. This is something that is life-changing. When you realize that you are compounding emotions, when you realize that like maybe you're really disappointed because some of these plans got changed, and then you're also really frustrated because it totally messed you up. And then you think like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't be frustrated and I shouldn't be disappointed because all this other stuff is going well, or because so and so, is so much worse off, then you just like put emotions on top of each other and then you squish them down, and they have to come out sometime. They have to come out. So if you are handling your emotions and you're processing things and you're moving through them, then you're able to then like just be disappointed for a minute, be frustrated, and then move on. But if you don't and you squish them, then what happens is they come out, like I said, in all these different ways. They could come out in disease. They could come out when you lose your mind over milk, or they could come out in just like tears some other time. So noticing and processing emotions is hugely important. And to go along with that, there's two main things: self-forgiveness, which is something that we need to teach ourselves and our kids to do. This is another big game changer that I feel like through all of this, I've learned so much, to just like forgive yourself for things that you're holding on to for no reason. So when can you forgive yourself more? Maybe you could have done better at something. Forgive yourself. Maybe you feel guilty about something. Forgive yourself. Like giving yourself that power of forgiveness. We teach and we make our kids forgive other people and say they're sorry and whatever, but we don't do it enough to us. And that is a huge trap of emotion. So a huge trap of negative energy. So if that's something that you're not comfortable with and you're not familiar with, then that's something that we can give you so much power back, is learning. There's a few really good techniques and tactics of how to practice self-forgiveness that can free you from so much squished emotion and so much negative energy. So I'm so glad that's resonating, Nicole. Yes, I think that's been such a game changer for me, and just realizing the emotional piece, because ultimately, like when you're trying to be healthy and you're trying to do all these things, that's one amazing part, the habits and like the routines. And then there's this whole other part, which is this energy stuff, which is like, how do you then take a hold of all the feelings and things like that to make them aligned with these healthy behaviors? And then how do you mix them with self-love, which is really this Kesia circle that is coming together and really becoming more complete. So one more thing in the processing emotions is celebrating. We do not celebrate enough. We are trained from back in the day to think that like celebrating is bragging or something, and we need to celebrate ourselves. We need to celebrate small wins. We need to add more positive emotions into our day-to-day, especially during this time when we're searching for things to reclaim our energy, and there's so much that we could spiral into that's negative. We need to celebrate small wins on a regular basis. So building the habit of celebrating is a huge bonus, I would say, to processing your emotions, because then you're able to like notice more good. It goes right along with gratitude, and we could talk all day about gratitude and the science and how much it really helps you. But I think celebrating is hugely important. When you have the energy of celebration and you're like, hey, you got, a 9 out of 10 on your quiz, like let's celebrate that today. Or not even just successes. When you're celebrating behaviors that you want to have, when you're celebrating just feelings that you get to access, when you're celebrating little things, then the gratitude and the positive energy can build momentum. So that hugely goes into processing emotions. All right, so number 4, I guess we have 6, like I said, counting this way, is stress management. And stress management is having everything to do with lifestyle, and it's having everything to do with processing emotions. But I think it needs its own category, because if you don't feel like you manage stress well, then like it's going to be really hard to reclaim your energy in this world that's so stressful. I mean, everywhere you turn, from like the politics, the COVID, the work, I mean, it's just there's stress everywhere. So what are you doing about that? What are the healthy lifestyle behaviors that you're doing? How are you processing the emotions of stress? Because stress is so filled with emotions. And while we need some stress to give us a little zip and like get us going, stress is kind of all the things combined. But I think if you can recognize that like you have these specific ways that you manage stress, that's hugely important. And if you don't, then that is going to be a huge step in reclaiming your energy, because you need to take back that stress management. And so the first thing to do is kind of revert back to all of these things with stress management, is just like recognize what is causing you the most stress. And it might be the unknown, and it might be all the changes, and that's legit. So just recognize and understand that, and then recognize like what actual things am I doing to help with stress? And hopefully they are the same things that you can do to reclaim your energy. So they are those lifestyle behaviors, they are the movement, the nutrition, the sleep, all of those things. Huge part of that is the processing emotions. But I think it's important to recognize that like stress is external and internal. And so, of course, we can easily identify all the external stresses that we've had and that we keep naming through this whole program and just everything all the time. But what internal stress are you putting on yourself? What internal stress for perfection? What internal stress to meet expectations that maybe are too high? How is your to-do list adding stress? Maybe it's like massive and you know it's not even like a possibility to get it done, that it feels stressful. Where are you adding internal pressure and stress to your life to go on top of everything else? And when you realize what you are doing that adds a lot of stress, then by managing that piece, your own inner thoughts, your own expectations, your own thoughts and emotions in general, then you're able to recognize that like you have a real stress management program, and then you're able for yourself, stress management practice, I should say, and then you're able to take that back. So how are you managing stress, even from like a physical perspective, like deep breaths, yoga, stretching, mindfulness, meditation, all of these ways that you're really able to calm and relax your mind. So stress management, again, could be and should be a whole nother training, which we can dive so deep into, just like what stress looks like and how the internal versus the external and the behaviors that change it and what the plan looks like for you and what stresses you out that doesn't stress your neighbor out or your friend or your sister. So knowing this, recognizing it, and really owning your stress management is going to be hugely important in reclaiming your energy, because of course that's exactly what we're talking about. All of these things are so stressful and all of these things are constantly adding stress. So that is number 4. Number 5 is letting things go. Number 5 is one of my favorite things. This covers so much. Okay, so where can you let things go in your life? And I don't mean let them go and not care and worry about them, but where can you let go of control? So when you think of that control circle, we've talked about it before, I've shared it. It's like, what do you actually have control over? What do you have influence over? And what is completely out of your control? And if you can draw 3 circles on your paper right now, and you can take a second to write down what you actually have control over. So go ahead and do that. Write down what you actually have control over. And let me give you a hint. It's a lot less than you think. It's a lot less than you think. What you actually have control over is really like your thoughts, your actions and behaviors, what you eat and drink and move, your daily habits, your lifestyle habits, your beliefs about yourself and like about the world, your opinions. That's what you have control over. And we could go on a little bit, but it's pretty much all in that little circle. What you think you have control over, but you might just have influence over, is like your family's actions. Yes, you can influence and impact them, but do you have control over them? No. Your people in your immediate circles, again, action, opinions, behaviors. What you think you might have control that you just have influence on is maybe their nutrition and their stress management and their emotions. And so that's where it gets really tricky, because especially like as moms, as women in general, we care so much about other people, and we oftentimes think we have control over helping them feel a certain way or do certain things, but we don't really. So we need to take our power back just to us. Then we can positively impact them, because we're taking control of us, we're raising our vibration. And when we raise our vibration, then we're able to help them raise their vibration just with the way energy works, not because we're actually trying to control things. And so when you let go of control over those things and you really take that power back just to you, you can create so much more magic in your life, and you can create so much more positive impact of those around you, because there's no pressure, there's less like disappointment, there's less expectations falling through. And so I think really taking a second to do that exercise, the control, the influence, and then what's out of your control. And out of your control is going to be the easiest one to fill out, but also maybe the most eye-opening. Like, you don't have control of traffic. You don't have control of probably a lot of work stuff. You don't have control over COVID. You have control of your actions. You have an influence on other people's actions that are in your immediate circle, but you don't actually have control over COVID. You don't have control over politics. You have control over your vote, opinion, whatever, and influence maybe on other people's, but no control over what actually happens. Same with weather. So you can control what you wear and what you bring, but like, it is what it is. So recognizing where you can let go, and like, notice if you're holding on so tight to things that no wonder you're stressed out. No wonder you need to take that energy back, because you're giving it to things that like you have no chance of controlling. So letting things go is hugely, hugely important. The other piece of this, and I could go on, we could do a whole training on letting things go, which maybe we should, is energy drains. So people, tasks, news, social media, what drains you? This is your life. And so if you're giving your energy to things that drain you, if you know that watching the news in the morning kind of like sets you in a bad mood, why do you turn the news on, right? Like that's your choice. If you know that when you go on Instagram and you're looking at all these people's adorable homemade Halloween costumes or beautiful front porches and that causes you stress or comparison, then recognize the power that you have. This is your social media that you can look at, and you don't have to give your power to that. You can let that energy drain go. I know when I go on my Instagram, it's like a big hit of inspiration because I just kind of let things go and unfollow and mute anything that just really drains me. So recognizing that what you have power over, if you're reading things that are then putting you in this place of like negative energy, then take that power back and don't do it, or just take a break from it if you don't feel like that. This can be a really tricky one, noticing the energy drains, especially when it comes to people. You might just have to put up some more boundaries, boundaries is something that I love to dive into with clients, because as you gain control of your boundaries, then you can easily control your energy so much better. And then the other piece of letting things go is your own stories and your own limiting beliefs. So how these stories and limiting beliefs are so ingrained in you that you've come to believe them to be true, but they're not actually true. So when you're letting things go, you're letting the idea of whatever it is that's holding you back go. And so you might need a self-exploration, or like doing a Keisha program, of course, is what we dive into, is like, is that real or is that a story? Is it true that you have no time, or is that a story? Is it true that you have no ability to do this differently, or is that just a limiting belief? Is it true that you always have to struggle, or are you just in that loop of struggling and you think that like that's how you've always done it? Your brain thinks like, this is what we do. We start something and then we quit and then we feel bad, then we start again. Or this is easy for her and hard for me. Those are limiting beliefs, okay? Or like, this gets to be this is harder than it needs to be. I always go back to that because I think some people get in that loop so easily, like it's easier for her than it is for me, or there's just a lot of comparison and things like that. So when you take a hold of your limiting beliefs and you recognize that like you're worthy and you're deserving and you are giving your power away to these thoughts that are not true, and that's how you figure them out, you can ask like, can I prove that to myself? Can I prove that like this has to be hard for me? No, I could just do this thing and it could be easier. Like, so when you shed light on those limiting beliefs and you let them go, you release them and the stories that you've had, then you're able to break cycles and you're able to reclaim your energy, because you ultimately have so much energy tied up in these stories that aren't even true. But at one point that thing happened. And so now your brain's like, hey, that's always going to happen. Let's keep you safe and let's keep you small. We'll just remind you of that bad thing that happened, and then just remind you that this isn't going to work for you. And then it's going to keep you that way. So letting things go is a huge one. Letting go of control, letting go of energy drains, letting go of limiting beliefs and stories. And when you let go of those things, you are so much more free to reclaim your energy. You don't even realize how much you have tied up in those things. And so that is just such a beautiful process that I love, love, love to focus on. Okay. Then this is the last one. And this is tapping into your desires. And desires is like such a funny word because it's kind of like, it makes you think of like sexual desires or something. But when you think of what you desire, like what you want is like, what it is, it does mean what do you want? But like want is more like, oh, I want that. You think of like a kid wanting something. And so desire, it's like, desire almost feels like goddessy, right? So like, what do you desire? What do you really want? And this is a huge step. There's so many of my clients, and myself included, that when you hear that question, like, what do I really want? You're like, oh, I don't even know. Like, I'm doing all these things. Like, what do I really want? So getting more clear on what you ultimately want, and this can be in so many different ways. The one thing I want you to think about is, what do you want to feel? How do you want to feel? What do you desire to feel? And this is different for all people. Some people want to feel safe and secure. Some people want to feel free. Some people want to feel higher energy. Some people want to feel more positive. Some people want to feel more joy. Some people want to feel more like playful and like, able to laugh. And so what do you actually want to feel? And that's hugely important, because if you don't recognize and understand what you desire to feel, then like, where are you going? And so when it comes to your Keisha, your path, to understand what you want to feel is a huge piece of it, because then you can create the path of how to get there. And you can see like, oh, what's in my way of feeling this way, or what's in my way of getting there. And so what do you want is a hugely important thing. What do you desire is a hugely important step in reclaiming your energy. So if you just want your energy back, like, for what? You know, it's almost like your why. Like, why are you doing this? Like, why care? And so I think that is so hugely important. Yes, thank you, Mary. Yeah, I think understanding your desire is so important. And like, then you're able to shift your identity as a person that feels that, as a person that has access to that, as a person that is that. And so when you just sit and journal about what you actually desire, like, I want to feel lighter, I want to feel more free, I want to feel more peaceful. When you tap into understanding what that is, and then you can tie it to other things, like, what else do you want? What do you want in your career? What do you want, you know, in your family life? What do you want in your social life? What do you want when you wake up in the morning? And so then you're able to make that plan to get there, because you have a place that you want to go. Otherwise, if you just want to get better, or you just want to succeed more, like, what does that even mean? What does that even mean? So as you're working toward that more positive version of yourself, positive is a very fluffy word. And so getting more clear on like, what type of positivity, what are you trying to access more of? And then you can kind of look back over these steps, like, what do you need to let go of to get more of that? How do you need to manage your stress better to get more of that? How do you need to process your emotions to tap more into the emotions that you want? How do you need to fill yourself up, move your body, do all of these things to get more of that desire, get more of what you want? So when you align all of these things, then you're really able to reclaim your energy, and you're really able to bring that power back to yourself. So I think taking a second to just like review again, notice what you're doing. First of all, take a second to realize how powerful you are. Recognize you have so much power to give more love to the world, to give more peace to the world, to show up as this like better version of yourself, because you're more in the energy that you want. So when you realize all of that, then you notice what's in your way, what's happening, what is your day-to-day lifestyle, what's your nutrition, what's your sleep, what's your gratitude, what's your movement, what are all those things like? Then you move into thinking about how you're processing your emotions. Are you doing that? Are you compounding them? Are you telling yourself that you shouldn't feel things, that you're human, you're allowed to feel, everyone needs to feel, we're supposed to, that's part of the deal. Then you're able to understand your stress management, notice what's really stressing you out, what can you kind of cut down on. Then you move into letting things go. What can you let go of? What is draining you? What do you not have control over? What limiting beliefs are holding you back? And then you move into like, what do you really want? And so when you put all these things together, then you're able to really reclaim your energy. And this is like, even if you do one of these steps, you are going to understand how to harness that energy so much better. And you're going to understand that little blip, like, oh, yeah, that does feel good, or like give you a little momentum. So I would love to hear which step one, everyone has to do. You have to reclaim your power. So 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Leave a message in the comments of what you're going to start with. And some people might want to tap into that desire first and then go back to stress management and then process emotions, because that seems scary. Or where are you going to go? Again, this is your path. This is what Keisha is all about. Keisha is about helping you where you are, wherever that is, on your path, and moving you forward. And so this isn't like order of events that have to happen first, second, third, fourth, but it does create a flow, and it is totally up for you to align to what works for you. So as we move forward, I just want you to think about each day doing some of these things to reclaim that power and reclaim that energy, and knowing that like for the next week, who knows what's going to happen with the election, who knows what's going to happen with COVID and all of our situations moving into the holidays. And so the more you're able to reclaim your energy, the more you're able to access those feelings that you want and put out the vibes that you want. And then in turn, you'll get those vibes back, and you'll automatically feel like that better version of yourself. And you will be. So if this is something that really resonates with you, if this is something that you're feeling like, oh my gosh, yes, 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 you're saying yes to these things, and you're noticing like, I want to take more action on these things, and I realize like, ooh, there's some little loopholes that I could take some focused action on, then join me in the Raise Your Vibe program. So this program is starting on Monday, November 16th. And this is going to be the perfect time because it's going to lead us right to the holidays. It's going to lead us right to Christmas. It's a 5-week program where we dive into all of these things and we really spend time on the action pieces because I could tell you a bazillion things to do and I could talk all day right now. But when you take a second to take it day by day into your life and you think like, how can I do this? What does this look like? Ooh, there's a roadblock. And then we're meeting on group calls weekly. So we do a weekly Zoom call. And throughout those 5 weeks, you're able to take action. You're able to like start to notice what's draining you, figure out what you're doing with your emotions, if you're processing them or not. Notice, actually have that conversation about what do you really want and be supported by other women going through the same thing in the same program. And then you're doing this along the holidays. You're doing this over the holidays. This is something that does not take a lot of time. There's a little mini daily lesson, like almost a little podcast that helps you to check in and gives you that theme or focus of the day. And then there's just a weekly call that's done on Zoom anyways. And so that you're able to jump into that. But when you do this with a group and there's that like really good positive energy, especially like I said, leading us into the holidays, then all of a sudden you'll start to notice how you're showing up and how you're acting as that better version of yourself. And then the people around you will do the same thing because that's what happens when you bring that positive energy. Other people bring their positive energy. When you bring that negative energy, just like I said, other people kind of put their guard up and bring their negative energy. And so as we finish 2020, it is like the most beautiful time to really take a hold of reclaiming your energy, raising your vibration, not only for you, but also for the world, because we all know that we need more people who are empowered as their better versions of themselves to carry all those other people who are not, and of course, to carry ourselves, most importantly, and our immediate family and circle. So again, if this resonates with you, we're starting Monday, November 16th. It's a 5-week program. I'll put the link in the comments for you to join us. And all you have to do is sign up and you just watch for some emails and we'll get started. So I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me on this. And please reach out with any questions, because I'd love to support you wherever you are in this place. And I know that like when you take care of yourself, you are helping to heal the world and you're able to bring that goodness, empower someone else to do the same thing. So it's such a positive trickle down or a positive, spread effect. So thank you. And I will see you guys soon.